All CLI functionality is available in the Python SDK. The SDK is on GitHub, so you can find the link in our documentation. I guess I didn't put it here. Right, so let's get into it a little bit. So the main way that the SDK works is really around one core class, which is called the manager. And again, we'll go through actual, basic code and show you a real demo of this. But the idea, the concept here is that this manager allows you to, pardon me. The manager manages all API calls, all the actual interaction with the API gateway. So that's where you will set the organization ID, the API key, or an environment. And a lot of the kind of fairly common functionality is available directly from the manager class. You'll see that more advanced functionality, very often you instantiate it and you have to give it a manager. So pretty much in all cases, the first thing you want to do is instantiate a manager and kind of go from there. This is kind of a somewhat exhaustive list of what you can do through the manager, but the general idea is, auth is managed there. You will see that there's this concept of interactive manager. So either you can pass it as a flag when you create it, or you can make a manager interactive afterwards with make interactive. And all that is doing is creating a pipe from LimaCharlie down to your manager for real-time communication. So by default, it's really one way. It makes API calls. But when you say interactive, what you're saying is, I want to interrogate in real-time sensors from this instance of the API, of the SDK rather. And so that will set up the HTTP tunnel, HTTPS tunnel, to get the responses from your taskings. And we'll actually use that in the example. But you can, list sensors, very obvious stuff. You can do a lot of useful kind of basic searches, which I think is a bit of an underrated feature. So you can search for a sensor by hostname, fine. You can also search for a sensor by historical IP. So let's say you have like a big log file somewhere during an IR, and there's an IP that hit, your internal web server or something like that. And you would just like to know at 2 a.m. that day, which host on your network had this IP. So you can actually do a super fast query against it. So you just give it the IP, the time range, and we'll list you all of these sensors that had this IP, either internal or external during that time. So really cool. So outputs, so you can create all your forwarders, again, it's done through the manager. Managing DNR rules, also false positive rules, same. You can also get historical data from your, if you have Insight, so data retention enabled. So you can query historically for data from sensors or detections, all through the API. Searching for IOCs, which we've covered before. Get IOC prevalence, again, it's pretty much the same thing. External service requests. So as we're growing the list of kind of secondary services that we offer. So now we have things like, the dumper that dumps the memory, physical memory from a box. We'll have Zeek. Eventually we'll have payload detonation. So things like that. This class will allow you to send a specific request to one of those servers, one of those services rather. Managing ingestion keys. So as we mentioned for logs, they're the access token, so you can manage it there. You can also do really more management stuff like changing the quota, subscribing or unsubscribing from resources and services, and managing users can also all be done here. What we develop actually really works for somebody, rather than kind of developing features that we don't necessarily know whether or not there's use behind it. So if you have some use cases you have some thoughts or some tasks that you're doing fairly frequently that you'd like to be able over the CLI, to do over the CLI, do let us know. It'll be a pleasure.